and thank you for joining us today at the Los Angeles chapter's Conversations, Grammys Bridges the Gaps series. My name is Kiana. I am your Los Angeles chapter executive director, and I am here to just be a part of the conversation, as I know you are too, with our Grammy family. So today's topic is about AI. I know it's a hot topic amongst our communities. We know you guys are talking about it in your studios. We know you guys are like looking online and seeing what everyone's commentary is. We know you guys are at home writing with AI. The questions and the comments that we're hoping to hear today are like, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about everything from ownership to it as a creative tool to what you hope from the future we'll be able to do as creators with this technology?
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the Academy for asking me to be a part of this. This is a hot button topic. It is buzzing. We're hearing about this everywhere and obviously throughout our community, the creative community. So let's just set the tone. We're hearing a lot of different perspectives from different people about how we think AI is going to affect the music industry. So let's just, get started. What are your thoughts? Should we be embracing this? Should we be trying to shut it down? Should we be alarmed?
I just want to say,
thinking?
I went on ChatGPT and I said, who is Evan Bogart?
Oh.
And I wanted to see what bio it wrote for me, and it said I was the son of Cynthia Weil and Barry Mann, which would be awesome because they're such incredible songwriters. And I wrote back, no, that's not true. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, my bad. You're actually the son of Neil Bogart. And I was like, yeah, that's right. But like, that's crazy. So that's been my experience with AI is that that pretty much sums it up for me, which is basically like I think we're just at the beginning. Right, and I think that there's been a lot of, and I'm just going to dive right into it. There's been a lot of worry and conversation around AI is going to take our jobs, like AI is going to write songs for us, all this stuff. I think as it stands right now, and I've been playing with a lot of different platforms of generative AI, music collaborative platforms. It's not there yet. I don't feel like threatened in any which way as a songwriter or as a music publisher or as any, in that way, I feel actually pretty excited about it because I think the opportunity to collaborate with AI will open us up to doing something new and inventive in different ways. I saw that a lot, in the last couple of years with Web3. There was a lot of people that were doing art collaborations and art with AI and music and art, marrying music and art, where the AI would come up with the art based on the music, et cetera. And I thought there were some really mind-blowing pieces that were made. And so I think if like Eric's making a record, or one of Alana or Lucas, one of Lucas's clients are making a record, I feel like if they're using AI to kind of expand their minds, I embrace that. I'm down for that. I just don't think AI is at the point, and I'm sure, like I said before, I think AI is probably listening and it's gonna put me on some hit list. But I just don't think AI is at the point where it can replace what we do. There's a humanity to what we do. There's an energy to what we bring to the table as creators. And I think it can only go so far. But I think at the end of the day, greatness and emotion, there's something innately human about that. And so I embrace it as a collaborative tool, but I'm not necessarily afraid of it in taking what we do.
Do I get to paint the dystopian future version of it now?
Go ahead, go for it.
I think like anything, there's a lot of good to come and a lot of bad, and we're still figuring it out in real time. A couple of the bad notes I think are, copyright infringement, something I talked to a lot of people about. I think AI is going to accelerate the amount of lawsuits in copyright infringement. So you'll be able to upload a song and it'll populate 400 songs that infringe on it. And I think that those lawsuits, which have been rapidly increasing, there'll just be a ton of them. And so I think it's like a real problem for the U.S. Copyright Office. They'll have more problems over the next 10 years than I think they've ever had. Although I appreciate a couple of weeks ago they took a stand against, I don't know if you guys saw, they took a stand against AI-created art and said we're not soon copyrighting anything created by a computer. That's one negative. Another one is if you're not a specialized job in any kind of business, I think it's going to eliminate a lot of positions, a lot of administrative positions. You look at the hundreds of people that work in the administrative sides of the record companies and the performing rights organizations. This will all soon be done by AI. So not great for the unemployment numbers, I think. Probably good for company margins and all that. But I think that's like some of the negative. I had a producer say to me this morning, he's like, man, can you imagine I cut a vocal on an artist and I couldn't get the second day, or I didn't have a lot of time with them, and I didn't like one of the words or one of the lines. Well, I can, fake Drake, I think is the big one this last month. I can, put Drake or whoever the artist is, and I can fill in that last line.
But Drake might appreciate that.
Yeah,
not having
artists
to come back to the studio.
I think there's no issue with the AI if the artist signs off on it, right? I'm concerned that the major record companies and the rights holders are taking a very dogmatic approach to this. There's a quote from one of the heads of the labels about a week ago, kind of saying, are you going to be on the right side of history with creators? And I love that stuff, but it's a tidal wave we're not going to be able to stop. And so I think it's important for record companies to enhance the experience of releases, to authenticate. I think call it the blue check mark or whatever, to have some kind of authentication to say this is Drake or whoever the artist is. I think we got to be thinking more about things like that. There's going to be all of this stuff and all of this noise from all this AI created stuff, and I hope in the end, if you're I'm trying to think of an artist with affinity. If you're a Frank Ocean fan, maybe you want to hear the 12 sides, on his album, what he has to say. I hope when all the noise clears, we care a lot about artistry and what that person has to say. So AI will be interesting for ambient music and meditation music, and maybe pop artists that don't have fan affinity could suffer from this. But I hope for real artists, when the dust kind of clears, that AI, we look at AI more as a tool and not as a replacement.
Yeah.
All right.
You want to go ahead? Go for it.
Oh, yeah, well, because I just wanted to say a quick thing, as somebody who creates music for media also, that there are a lot of people whose jobs are actually in jeopardy. People who are doing cue music for, reality TV, for example, who have a bunch of syncs on these shows, and that's how they make their living. That's gone. I mean, you can really go and create that now in 2 seconds. So for those, for the hundreds of thousands of people who do that for work, that's a problem. And then with regard to copyright law, I mean, there have been so many lawsuits that I think unfairly accuse people of copyright infringement, when really what we're talking about is the basic fundamental building blocks of music. And for example, in 2008, I wrote a song, and Jessie J came out with Domino several years later, and it sounded exactly the same. Why? Because we're doing an ascending line in a certain way, and we probably both drew inspiration from something else. And in a certain respect, and this might be too philosophical, maybe I have to cut this out, but our brains, we're human beings, we're organic machines. One thing that we had a meeting, the Recording Academy with the Copyright Office at Harvey Mason Studios, and Harvey said the same thing. We are processing all of the music that we've heard over the course of our lives, and that is informing the music that we're making. So, okay, we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, that was going to be my second question. You were about to go into that, but we'll come back around.
I think there's just so many different perspectives, to look at AI from, like you said, a publisher, different media company. But for me, looking at it from specifically creative, I look at it with so many different avenues. I see green lights. I see assistance with songwriting. I see faster help with rhyme words. You can give me a line, no different than the person sitting next. I can co-write with AI, essentially. Even if it gives a line that's terrible, I can combat it with a better idea, but it's a great spark, for all things creative. I was playing with it, and it wrote a script for me, you know, and it's just literally limitless when it comes to the creator. Like whoever can be the smartest, whoever can, you know, because there's some people that may complain about it, but then there's other people that will come up off of it. It's kind of like you can choose the side.
Yeah, and I think that's saying a lot coming from someone who doesn't seem like they struggle with, you know,
Yeah.
coming up with melodies and ideas and things like
Yeah.
that. You see it as something to collaborate with, and that'll help you push and, yeah, be a helpful part of the creative process. So, I mean, I think that's definitely saying a lot. Yeah, a lot of different ways of looking at it. I think all these different areas are going to be affected in different ways, positive, negative, but the laws are going to have to catch up,
Yeah,
get
that's
fleshed
the
out,
part for sure.
figure it out. So actually, you were starting to touch on this, Alana, about, so you you met with the Library of Congress. And so what came out of those meetings? You want to be a part of those. It's important for us to be a part of those meetings in the earlier stages. So from that, what came out of it in terms of kind of where they see, how they think we need to be handling this and looking at how this is going to affect things?
Really good question. I don't
Yeah.
think they really know yet. So
Okay.
they're having listening sessions. They're talking about it. We're having conversations. We're continuing the conversation with them. I think it's really complicated, right? Because, you know, and speaking about copyright and lawsuits, it's, you know, if people can't copyright pieces of music that AI is generating large portions of, right? Because there's this question that came up in the meeting about, okay, well, if the AI is responsible for this amount and then you're responsible for this amount, and also it's all self-reported, right? So how are we gonna, like, what? I mean, what? I think everything needs to sort of be re-envisioned a little bit, because you know that they're gonna be searching for liability, and if you can't copyright something, then what are you not liable for? Who's liable then? Like,
Right.
so that's really complicated. People love liability.
I mean, I know we're not going to solve this here, but I just want to bring this up. So,
And you met as well. So what was your takeaway?
If you give the AI all the programs that I've used, you have to give it prompts,
Yeah.
right? If you're giving a prompt, even if you're playing a chord and you're saying, okay, I want a song that sounds like this song meets this song, but it's like this tempo and this feeling, start with this chord. It still came from you. And if you're putting it out, you still own that responsibility of putting
Agreed.
it out. You know if it's ripping off another song or not.
Sometimes, right?
Or you don't.
Yeah.
Or you don't, you find out later, right?
Yes, right.
But I'm saying, like, but unintentionally, like Jessie J didn't listen to your song. I mean, I don't know. I'm assuming Jessie J didn't listen to your song. Okay.
Probably
Jessie didn't listen to your song and write Domino, right? And so I think that, like, I think there's an element of, like, owning that. Now, if you just set a machine wild and it just creates music and auto-populates, like Lucas was saying, right? Like, again, someone had to set that machine wild. I think you can trace that back. I mean, there's going to be sometime in the way future where machines will just think for itself and we'll all work for them. But we're not anywhere near there yet. And so, I just think that, like, you still have to give it prompts. You still have to start somewhere. You have to give it some direction to do something. It may do the 98% of the work from there, but someone's responsible. No? Am I wrong?
You know, one of the Copyright Office issues is that you can still register something under your name, right? So you can create something with AI and still register under a person's name. And I don't know how specific you have to be about it being created by AI. So that's your kind of workaround they're going to have to figure out. And I think it's, then you start to ask, like, okay, well, it was created with AI, but, you know, how thin are the lines between, you know, the effects you use on a song or things that you know, take out of a splice library or things
was gonna say that.
you
Like,
know, it starts to become kind of
If
gray.
I took a loop from, like, an oak pack on Splice and I just wrote a song over it, didn't change it at all, and just released it, right?
is that a lot different?
I put myself down as a 100% writer. Somebody else,
That's legal.
Eric
That's
takes the
legal.
same loop, writes over it, puts it out, also credited as a 100% writer. Now, Oak's not getting anything, I can't sue them because I know it's a splice loop.
The nuance in that is that you have to deliver everything royalty free for splice. So that's kind of the nuance, I guess. But by the way, in the early days of
No, but I'm saying
yeah.
like it's not. What's the difference?
The only issue that
How's
that
that
there would be
different?
is copyright infringement of one's voice. I don't think.
But you're talking about like when someone puts out like a Drake Rihanna duet.
Yes, if it's like
I mean that's just like
That's the
that's
only-
beyond.
which seemingly doesn't
the
seem to be an
likeness
issue
kind of.
if you don't name it after those artists. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, but then there's the likeness question,
That's a
right?
big-
I'm sure you
right?
could.
Yeah.
Do you guys, is anybody following this Rick Astley lawsuit, the Richard Bush Rick Astley lawsuit? That's one everybody should look at. The Young Gravy, where they hired it was Nuance because Rick Astley didn't write the song, and all the writers had sold to, I think, Primary Wave, and the Primary Wave, gave them never going to give you up, right? And a plaintiff lawyer representing Rick Astley is saying, well, you hired like a sound-alike, right? It's like calling the Elvis impersonator or something. You hired a sound-alike. We've been doing that forever in the music business, right? But they're saying that's a name, image, likeness issue. I would follow that lawsuit because dependent on where that goes, that's going to touch this as well. By the way,
I mean,
shout out Ed Sheeran on the
Take
Linda.
Yeah, he won, right?
Of that case.
But that's the thing, though. Like we have been hiring sound-alikes. I don't know why that would be any different. I mean, there's records that I've had out from unnamed artists where half the records aren't actually that named artist singing it, and they sound just the same.
The nuance is that he's not a writer to be able to stop it, right? So it was like an outside song, and then the argument is it does. There's moral rights is one of the arguments, legal arguments, and then the other part of it is like he had said he intended to do a collaboration with someone, and this kind of took the varnish off of it, which I understand. It's a highly nuanced situation, but all of a sudden not being able to use an artist that's a sound-alike or whatever because of name, image, likeness, which name, image, likeness lawsuits haven't touched music copyright a lot. This is a really interesting one, but I think it bleeds into the AI issue.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
you're
the same. It's
coming-
the same as a producer sampling an old song. They would have to get the proper clearance. They wouldn't need your permission. They would just need to get it, in order to make it creatively. But when it comes to actually releasing it, I look at it as the same. You have to get the rights to use the voice, but it's the exact same from production standpoint.
But they didn't use his voice; they used a sound-alike, and they got all of the publishing clearance. So the nuance is he's not a writer
so
on it.
interpolation.
So yeah, it's an interpolation. But again, if everybody's signed off on it and you're using a cover artist, but the lawsuit has legs. It's worth everybody reading about it, and
Yeah.
it's terrifying. So.
I do think it's interesting about the voices doing other songs thing. Like there is an open AI version of that I was uploading songs to of mine, and then you can click different artists. It takes literally 3 minutes. You upload your song and you click a different artist, and they've spelled them differently, right? So it's like Beyonce spelled differently, Jay-Z spelled differently, all these people, and Biggie and everybody, and then it basically within 5 minutes it emails you your song back in their voice. But it's
That was just the Biggie one doing
Yeah,
the
the-
Tupac song.
oh, Nas.
That was just released.
Nas. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I did hear a Tupac
Oh, a Tupac one,
too,
but so
but
like,
yeah.
but there was Biggie doing New York State of Mind.
Oh,
but they had so I've been doing it, but like I can tell they're fake.
Does sound like, so if you listen to like the fake Drake thing, like this is the worst it'll ever be. So in 12 or 24 months, this thing will be completely dialed in.
Right.
And this, like just, referencing that lawsuit, this would now create, depending how that goes, this would create that fake Drake, that Drake would have a name, image, likeness lawsuit against the AI version. It's interesting, and I don't think the legal and the lawsuits are really the answer because there's going to be so much of it. It won't be able to, but it's great as a tool, and as it continues to develop.
Yeah.
So I have actually the last question. I think we've been touching on it, and I think coming from a management publisher standpoint, I think the question is, so you're building business models with your clients. How is this shaping the way that you and your clients are planning for your business and future catalogs?
This is another thing I'm pretty vocal about. Every songwriter we represent is insured, has errors and omissions insurance for lawsuits. I think there's more of them. We have a rule at our company, if you've had one hit, you got to be insured for us to represent you. So I think that's a big thing, is songwriters are not enough of them are getting insured, and it's cheap enough if you haven't had lawsuits, and it's worth everybody having. But I think that's one thing that we're planning for, just because we don't know if AI is going to cause a spiral on that side. And that's one of the negatives, not one of the positives, but being prepared for that. I think we generally have a mentality around the office of, like, let's pay attention to it, but also kind of like keep our horse blinders on. And I'm still in the business of humans that are creating. And I hope that for our lifetime, this is a tool and not a replacement for creative people and people making specialized music. So I think we're taking it really seriously, but we're not getting too wrapped up in letting it consume our day job, if that makes sense. So.
I would say, though, I am, to something Alana said, I am a little concerned, about the people who are doing cues, music production music. They would, if I did that, I'd be more concerned, I think.
They're done, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what's been going on for the past few decades and centuries. We used to have libraries, that was the main thing. It's like if you, look at the things that have vanished just naturally by technology, I just look at it like this is another one of those sink or swim moments where we have to think like that. But of course, from a publisher's standpoint, if you're thinking about copyright issues, I understand that, but I do feel like it's gonna be a clear case if there's anything that's going crazy. As fast as Fake Drake went up, it was off all platforms shortly after. You know what I mean? So, like you said, it's definitely the beginning, but I don't know. I'm like optimistic about things.
I just think that if you can harness it and it can make you better, and you can have a relationship with it. I just think it's gonna I think it can elevate us, everything that we do. I understand that there's copyright issues, and we're still dealing with copyright issues pre-AI stuff at this point.
Yeah.
So let's just put that in perspective. None of that has been solved
waiting.
yet.
This predates me a little bit, but I was talking to someone the other day that said, "Yeah, man, we're going to be totally fine." When the blank audio cassette came out, every record executive said, "Well, that's a wrap. It's the end of the business." People
seen
were
this
genuinely
before.
concerned about blank audio cassettes. So I mean, it's probably another version of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and just to wrap that question about copyright, and if there's an algorithm that starts populating, like, because I don't have E&O insurance. Most of the time, I'm just on the studio's E&O. So it's fine. Right. However, if we start putting everything through this algo and it starts telling us what's infringing upon what, it's going to be every song. There's not a single song, right? So that's just also something I'm super passionate about, because I'm like, what are we, what is that conversation? Obviously, if you're sitting in there with, an inspiration song, and you write a song that doesn't have in any way copyright infringement, no melody, nothing that anybody could possibly point to and be like, oh, that's from that, but it feels like it. I mean, there's been an instance of that, right? Blurred, was that Blurred?
Yeah,
Lines?
I mean, and this is not what this is about, but like the whole, like, it has the feel of, drives me crazy. It just drives me crazy.
The positive of it also is that
Guys, we have to, we're almost done. We're wrapping up. So if you wanted to finish that thought, we have
I was
about
just going to
30
say the
seconds.
positive of it is that it can also populate a lot of prior works, which is a big thing in copyright infringement, is to be able to reference, songs that you're trying to make an argument that the song is common. Last thing I wanted to say is, so it can be a positive. Last thing I wanted to say is, one of the big issues right now that you're going to start hearing about a lot is, based on how streaming is paid out on the whole of the pie chart, there's a lot of fraudulent music, and it's crushing the, it's crushing the value of everyone's songs. There are companies right now, there's one in particular, which I won't mention, that's pumping millions of songs onto the DSPs weekly. And what's going to happen is, and that's not fraudulent music. That's not like tape hiss that's being played. Like, this is like real songs, and they're probably schlocky songs that none of us care about, but they're going up. And what it's going to do is it's going to crush the pie chart for all of this stuff that's, kind of whatever. And it's going to crush what we get paid out on songs we've all worked hard to make. That's another one of the big looming issues that I'm really concerned about, is it's just going to be tons of music, more than we already have. So.
Should we go visit them?
Yes, all of them. That's what the major labels would like to do. So.
Hi everyone, my name is Ejanaz, and I am the LA chapter intern, also a Grammy student. First of all, thank you so much for your time and being here and sharing this conversation with us. I know it's very early stages of this conversation, but I had a more specific question since I'm a singer-songwriter, and this is gonna be from a vocalist standpoint, but I just saw that Grimes actually released her voice pack in the AI for people to use. And I wanted to know, I loved when Alana said we're organic machines, and there's Evan, as you said also, there's a humanity to what we do. But I guess as a young singer-songwriter, I'm kind of concerned because in the industry, we also see that sometimes labels don't see that like we do. And do you guys think that this is going to be most specifically for singers? Because also, as Eric said, that's more personalized. I mean, if there's Santana guitar licks, I think that's also personalized. But is there a way that that's going to be used as a feature tool? If you want to be featured on a song, are labels going to want to push that and push artists to, release their voices or their instrument as packs if they find a way to monetize that or earn royalties from that? I personally can see that being an outlet of, because you personally cannot be everywhere at all
I think
times,
she's
but you
ahead
always
of the
can.
curve.
Yeah.
I think she's ahead of the
Yes,
curve
she's on it.
because people are
100%.
going to be doing it anyway, and at least she's making the terms, setting the terms hey, 50-50, whatever you do, whatever we'll make it together. She's not tripping on anything. She's still living her life looking at that as another multiple stream of passive income.
I love that she did that. I mean, she was early on also, music NFTs too, doing the same sort of thing. She's really ahead of the curve on that. And I think she's so quick to embrace new technology. I mean, my new single with Eric Bellinger, you don't even know, is coming out this week.
You guys didn't even make it.
Go 3.0, yeah.
Fake Evan, fake Aaron.
Yeah. I mean, Grimes is really progressive, unsigned, and really rich. So it's a perfect combination. I mean, it's, just the whole thing about, you can use my voice and you get 50%. This will not soon exist inside the major labels and publishers. Not a chance. Not a chance. But it's a great time to be a star artist and be unsigned and have a cottage industry like that and make your own rules. I mean, I kind of dig it. So.
Great question. Okay.
Or question from anyone else in the audience? Yes, and if you could stand.
Hi, I'm Kristen Jewell. I'm the founder of Jewell Concepts, and I'm also a senior analyst with Water and Music, which is a research intelligence network. We just finished a whole season sprint on AI and music. I don't know if any of you have read it, but if you haven't, it's really fun. Jokes. It's a lot. It's long-winded. But one of the things that when I was interviewing many of the companies and the founders in these experiences that we've been talking about, I started to feel like one positive that I saw from the beginning was the prompting. I think you guys were all talking about that, and how that could become yet another person job, right? So the engineer, the mixer, the prompter. And I thought that's gonna be something maybe we should be managing, a prompter, because just like anything else, as a producer, you have a certain sound. As a prompter, you're getting to a specific sound. Has that been something that anybody has thought about?
No, I
mean-
mean, as a position. I mean, first of all, that's
Like a job.
that's
I'm just
brilliant.
wondering.
Because
Okay.
I mean, no, all my brain is exploding right now because there is such a nuance to how you talk to the machine.
Right.
There is such a nuance to how you guide it, and
Yeah.
that's going to be ever changing, right? Because as the technology advances, the way you talk to it's going to have to change as well. That's
But can I say, you still have to know how to operate you still have to be proficient at programming. You have to be proficient on using, You do. No, you do, because you have to, what happens is if you're not, it just spits something back to you that feels really generic and terrible.
Terrible.
Like absolutely awful, terrible. And I mean, you don't need AI to do terrible music, right?
Right.
And so you have to be able to then tell it what to do to it, what it sends
Yeah.
back to you. It's not intuitive enough right now to know how
Yeah.
to make it better without you prompting how to make it better. And that
agree.
goes for every single one I've tried, like over a dozen.
It's essentially
That's what you're saying,
Google on steroids, you know? Like, usually when you type one thing on Google, it gives you one small thing. But if you put clown, red shoes, purple wig, polka dot tie, it would give you a distinct and intentional clown rather than you just put clown and Ronald McDonald might pop up. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's the person that's steering it. It goes back to the creative, because even a person that's, and we're far, far away from AI controlling AI. You know what I mean? That's when it's an issue. But as long as that's when it's an issue. But when it's human, you know what I mean, engineered,
I like the prompter idea.
I do feel like that's good. you know?
Lucas
I'd
will
be
have
a
that
good
division
prompter.
open by Monday, just so everybody knows.
Representing prompters.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I think that I think you have to be a producer. You have to have some sort of engineer background, and potentially somebody who's both of those, but also has a background in coding or in tech
Or like
might be really proficient at that.
Yeah, or a linguist. Like there's something like in terms of lyrics. Lyrics is like the one place that I feel like it is really lacking. I mean, it is like really. Oh my God. Well, that was the thing at the copyright meeting at Harvey Studio. We asked it to give us a few song title ideas.
Yeah.
And one of them I can't stop thinking about, you guys.
It's terrible. Is that bad?
It's good.
Oh, really? I've
I'm
gone
not gonna
through.
say it.
I've
It's not
gone-
mine. It's Harvey's. He prompted it.
I love going through to my friends who are writers or who are artists and going on to like OpenAI and saying, write me a song like Eric Bellinger, and seeing what it spits out, because it's like, it's not wrong, but it's bad. Like but they'll say words in there. You're like, I mean, kind of what Eric would say. Like it's kind of, it's just a bad version of it, right? Like it's like a bad Eric song, right? And so, yeah, I mean, but if you go back to them and say yes, but don't be corny, or don't use
I
truck
tried
references,
that.
or don't do.
And thank you. He said corny. I said corny. Okay, so
But don't
no.
be more specific. Like yes, but don't reference
I do
trucks,
it.
or don't reference my name in it, or find a different rhyme pattern or something. Right? It adjusts.
It adjusts.
Prompters.
But like, how deeply can it adjust? Right? Because I said, can you do it more like Neruda? And it was still terrible. And I was like, Neruda would never do something terrible.
But then you have to figure out how to purpose it, right? But how is that any different from like I don't know, Bernie Taupin handing lyrics to Elton John?
Repurposing, you mean?
No, I'm saying you have to take the lyrics, the poem, whatever, if you call it a poem that AI writes for you, and then figure out how to turn that into a song, right? Put a melody to it. You still figure out how to
That's
sing
the
it.
part,
It
yeah.
doesn't do that for you. I mean, I guess it will do that for you, but
Back in the day,
I know
remember
we're getting
Evan back
we're getting
when I
like a
used
hook.
to
They're like pulling us off stage. I think.
demo songs, Evan, when I used to demo songs for
Yeah.
the songwriters,
Yeah.
it was always songs that I didn't write. They just called me in to sing the song.
Guys,
Right.
So
Essentially,
I
you do
think
the
we
same
need
thing.
to
Same thing, yeah.
wrap it
Just
up.
need a singer. You just need a singer, whoever lyrics they are, whether it's
so no more
AI or Allen
questions.
Iverson.
No more questions. Okay. So yeah. So I think we can call it a night.
Yes,
We are
we're
done.
good.
Just started.
Thank you, everybody.
I think that's
We'll be here all night.